Hey guys, thanks for hanging out. I know I'm hoping these are going to flow together and go good. The reality is I'm so busy and I got so many things to do that putting these together really looked like me sitting in a room. You know, you can always see me in the same clothes for a few sessions and just taping a few in a row and then getting them out there so that you guys can benefit, because I love you. We love you as a ministry. But it's more than just getting information. In the end here, we want to be transformed by the renewing of our mind. We don't want to be like the world. We want to be like Jesus. We want to get that heart that's in God. We want to be enlightened by the true light. And that's going to play out in the way we live and the way we treat each other. And that's the bottom line goal that we got, is we want to see you guys fed with something that would give you the strength to live the way God intended human beings to live. So, anyways, we'll pick up here on verse 11. He came to his own home, or came to his own, and his own people received him not. So the true light then is identified as a person, and he comes to his own. So he had his own. The true light then, having his own, it's important to understand that John is connecting this community, that the Rouhani community is connecting these people with an understanding, even from his first three words in the beginning, that their God is the same God who revealed himself to the Hebrew people, also known as the Jews. So when he came into his own, he came to the Hebrews. They're his own. It's part of the covenant formula that finds its way all the way through the Old Testament, that he would be their God, they would be his people. They would obey his commands and hear his voice. That covenant that God made with Israel to be his people gave him ownership into their lives to such a degree that they experienced a theocracy where God was the king, and he ruled and reigned until that sad time in the book of 1 Samuel when they chose a human king. For you and I, as we're reading this, and he comes to his own, we're to identify them as the Hebrews. So he comes to his own, and his own did not receive him. They did not receive him. Now this does not give anybody room to become an anti-Semite or some kind of prejudiced, anti-Jew person. This is nothing against the Hebrews as a race or as a culture, but this is being communicated to us as a fact in this incarnational moment, that when he came to his own, the Hebrews, people whom he had relationship with through the Torah, they were given his law. Through that divine gift and divine revelation of the Torah, the Hebrews had a relationship with God. So now God, who is equal to the Word, who has life, which was light, to enlighten all men, comes to his own, the Hebrews, and they did not receive him. What it's communicating is what was previously communicated, that he came into the world, and the world did not know him. Not receiving him is to do the same thing. They did not accept his authority. They did not display the kind of hospitality as a people that you would have expected with the coming of one like God. And there's a lot of things that are playing in your culture, and I'm trying not to get too deep with you guys, but this idea of not receiving him is a very shameful thing for the community of the Hebrews in the way that John is writing, because they were not able to identify who he was. So, not to put negativity on the Hebrews in the utmost, but to acknowledge that this was a reality. They didn't receive him. They didn't acknowledge his authority. They didn't accept it. And it also hints to us the fact that even though he came to his own, and he was God, the Word, the life, and the light, there is something about him that was covered. Something about him was, if you will, in disguise. Or incognito. There's something about him that did not meet the expectations of what one sent from God to be received by his people should look like. So Jesus then, and we don't even, the text hasn't even introduced to him as us, hasn't introduced him to us as Jesus yet. He's the Word who has the life, who's the light. And he has come to the world that didn't know him, and he's come to his own that didn't receive him. Both are challenges on his authority. And the bottom line is, though he created them, they weren't able to identify him. He was covered, he was in disguise, he was incognito. And that's a very important thing to think about. Their expectations of what one like this should look like did not match. And even for us to think about the incarnation, God coming on the earth, whatever it is that you can imagine God would be like coming on the earth, I'm telling you, it's not good enough. It's not going to match. Well, I grew up in church and I'm a Christian, I've been studying the Bible my whole life. It's not going to match. He came to his own and his own didn't receive him. You need a revelation given to you by the true light who illuminates men. And without that revelation, you won't receive him. You won't take him in. You won't be a part of what it is that he has longed to do in loving his creation and wanting to establish good for them. You won't be able to receive what he has to give because you won't receive him because he won't match up. And in that way we look at our world and we see how everything is. And we even see this theme carry over into the Acts of the Apostles and how what they were doing in the name of Jesus was so contrary to what everyone thought should be happening. Even the wise old man Gamaliel says, you know, we better leave him alone because we might be coming against God. And so he was able to admit that sometimes God moves in ways that we don't understand, that we can't match up with what we already know. So this verse is also a warning to everybody, letting us all know that if you think you've got God pegged, just remember the very people that he revealed himself with and had a relationship with, when he came to them, they were not able to receive him, to know him, to accept his authority. So daily you and I are banking on the grace of God to help us to acknowledge his presence in our lives and in the world. We'll see you next time.